Thinking of quitting podcasting? Fix these mistakes, then think again. I'm John Gehring, voiceover and audio producer. I produce a lot of podcasts, and one thing I hear from a lot of podcasters who are considering quitting their podcast, usually before the podcast has even reached its first 6 months or 1 year of releasing episodes, are these 3 common things. Number 1, a podcaster has overcomplicated their podcast recording setup. They wanted this professional studio that looks great and sounds great, impresses their guest and audience. And that's all great and all, but if that's your main focus before starting your podcast, you're really wasting your time. In fact, most great podcasts did not start in a great studio, even if that's where you see them today. That happened over the course of the evolution of the podcast. It started to make money. It started to become more popular. When you start a podcast, you likely have 2 listeners, you and your mom. And what you want to do is you want to grow that listener audience before you try to impress, you and your mom. So stop wasting time overcomplicating your setup. Number 2 is ignoring audience feedback. If you are so determined on doing your podcast the way you wanted it to be done, whether that's solo format, a guest format, whether that would be episode length or certain topics, but your audience says otherwise, I would seriously reconsider the way you're approaching podcasting. So many people quit because their audience isn't responding to the way they wanted to do the podcast. Well, if your audience is suggesting something else, why not give it a try? And finally, the number 3 reason that podcasters quit way too soon is that they're not marketing. Podcasting is not something where you record an episode and you wait for the audience to come. No, that's the biggest misconception ever in podcasting. You have to go out and get your audience through some tactical ways like maybe an email list, maybe social media campaigns, but most of all, one-on-one word-of-mouth marketing. Just posting your podcast on Facebook after doing it does not mean that listeners will come. I mean, think about how many posts you scroll by every day on all your social media platforms that look like that. One-on-one marketing is the way to go, and for every 1 hour of podcast episode you record, spend 3 hours on marketing that episode. Now, you'll start to see the numbers you're looking for, and you'll be less likely to want to quit 5 episodes in.